Hey everyone, this is Bunny. Today we are painting another sci-fi terrain room. Today we are painting Vault 7. This is a sci-fi room by the Dungeons and Lasers series. You'll notice I paint a lot of Dungeons and Lasers stuff. It's primarily because I really like the Dungeons and Lasers series. I love the quality. Like, this plastic is really high quality. It's not 3D printed, okay, so it's not something that you have to have a 3D printer for. You can absolutely, I'm just clonking the paint on for this first layer, but you can absolutely get this on their website. I'm not sure if this one's available on Amazon or not. I know some people, so these come from Poland and I love them, but I know some people have a hard time ordering from overseas. I'm just not sure if it is available on Amazon. If it is, the link will be in the description. I'll definitely put the manufacturer's link, but it's definitely worth ordering from the manufacturer. I adore their stuff, so it's really high quality. Okay, so if you can, I recommend ordering it straight from the manufacturer. If you can't, I will try to include a link to Amazon or another store that is maybe American. I'm going to try. I can't promise because obviously I don't control where they list them. So what we're doing today is just a base coat. Okay, and the color I've chosen, I've mixed this color, and it's basically a light blue gray, okay, that was then had a bunch of pewter gray added to it to give it, one, a little texture, because some of the paints don't have a lot of texture, and I really do like paints with texture. So, the pewter gray I've added is kind of a grittier paint, so it just gives it a little bit of grit, which I like. I didn't want to just paint it smooth and flat. I wanted something a little more, a little more texture to it, just to give it a little more dimension. So if you don't have a paint that has a little grit to it, you can add a little. Go to your local craft store and look for sand. Craft stores carry crafting sand, and it's designed for adding to paint and clay and stuff. Don't use like sand from your yard. That can be pretty dirty. But you can absolutely just use a crafting sand. They sell it at the craft store, so you can do that. It works really well to just get rid of some of that, some of that shininess, which shiny is fine if that's the look you're going for. But if you just want to add just a little bit of grit, it can really give your paints some texture, and texture is good. So I'm literally just slapping this coat on. There's a lot of little groovy spots that I really just want to push the paint into, because this is just my base color, and I'm not going to do a ton of colors. Again, I'm going to try and keep this a fairly simple palette. The more colors we introduce, the more difficult it gets, right? So we don't want to get too difficult. So we are going to try to keep this simple and easy, and one of the ways to do that is to simplify our color choices. So this color itself, when you're mixing your colors, start with your lightest color. So I started with my white, and then add little bits. I added little bits of cobalt blue into it until I liked that sky blue I had. It was kind of it was a sky blue. And then after that, I got out my pewter gray and added a little bit at a time. So when you're mixing colors, don't just plop a bunch of colors on your palette and mix them together. Add quite a bit of your lightest color, and then add your darker colors carefully and in measured amounts. Go slow, because when you're mixing colors, the dark takes over the light really fast. It happens really fast. So because that dark will take over your white, you're going to want to make sure you have gone as slowly and as carefully as possible when you are mixing your paints. So be careful and add your paint slowly. Okay? And there's no ceremony to what I'm doing here. I'm literally just slapping the color on. You don't have to be that careful with a coat like this. Like, you just get the color in there. It doesn't matter. You can be really careful if that's what you're into. But again, this channel's about quick and easy, right? Quick and easy is literally slap that paint on there. Just get it on there. And don't worry too much. You just want to make sure you get in all those grooves. So sometimes that means you're literally pushing paint in. Yeah, it'll wreck your brush. Okay? Yep. There are certain techniques that wreck your brush. I use cheap brushes for a reason. So gently get that paint in there in all those little grooves, because that's what we're after. And this will dry to kind of a, not a steely blue. It will literally be a light blue-gray, which is exactly what I'm after. It'll dry a little bit darker than what you're seeing. That's the general rule of paints. The general rule of paint is it will dry a little bit darker than the color you see. Okay, so know that when you're painting. Your paints always get a little bit darker. And somebody had asked why I like the Dungeons and Lasers stuff so much. It's really high quality. And it's not cheap. Okay, so I like to get it from Kickstarters. Okay, I like to get it from their Kickstarters. They just wrapped up another Kickstarter, which was, what was the theme? Oh, I don't know what the theme was. I forget. Oh, Port Haven, where you're getting a bunch of ships and a bunch of ship guys. So I definitely recommend them if you can get the Kickstarters. It makes it more economical. But we are going to stop there. I'm going to continue painting the other ones. I am not going to continually paint the same tile over and over again on camera. You'll see that when we come back, and then we'll paint the other half of some of these. Well, it's dry. We can keep going. So I'm not worrying too much about coverage because I'm gonna muck this up a lot anyway in a little bit. I am going to basically come at it with a really dark sepia wash again and muck it up. So depending on what you're painting, sometimes you don't want something to look pristine, right? You don't want it to look really nice. You want it to look beat up and gross. And that's not always an easy thing to accomplish. The easiest way to do that is to almost undercover your base coat, right? So you do only one coat and you kind of just let it fall where it may. You just kind of do one coat, and then later you end up with these almost streaky appearance, and that gives a bit of a spot for when you come in with your wash, your darker wash later. It gives that wash a spot to go, right? And it'll kind of sit on the surface as well as falling into the grooves, which is what you want. So that's why I'm not worrying too much about coverage, because I don't need to. I want it to almost have some grooves for that to come and sit in later. It's not that I don't cover at all. Like, obviously I am covering it. I'm just not worrying too much. Oops. We're doing these pieces. I'm just not worrying too much about it. Okay? We're not going to worry too much about it. There we go. That's better. And remember to work with a paint consistency that you enjoy working with. If it's too dark, if it's too thick, you're not going to like that. So thin it down to where it's a consistency you like. So some people like their paint a little thicker. Some people like their paint a little bit thinner. You want to work with the consistency that works for you. There's no one right answer. You're going to have people who are like, oh, your paint's too thick. Oh, your paint's too thin. But everyone you ask will have a different opinion on how thick or thin your paint should be. Okay? Does it work for you? Does it give you the look and coverage you were hoping to achieve? Then it's good. Remember, this channel, there's plenty of channels where you can find really advanced techniques, and eventually I might get to some of those. But this is about basic, easy, good enough for you techniques. This channel specifically isn't about making it perfect or spending hours on one model. You want to just kind of bang them out if you can and have a little fun while you're doing it. And you want to make sure that the process is as much fun as the finished product. If you're not enjoying the process, what's the point? Okay. We will come back when that's dry, flip over the pieces that need to be flipped, and continue on. Of course, I'll paint the rest off camera. All right, time to flip these over, paint the other side. So obviously we don't have to flip over the floor tiles. Floor tiles have no reason to get flipped, so we're not going to worry about it. We're not painting the back side of floor tiles. There's no point. We're just going to paint the back side of the tiles that you're actually going to see when you play. Because what's the point of painting the ones you can't see? There isn't one. So we're not going to worry about it. So this side's a little harder to paint just because it has these really deep grooves. So that's why I'm using brushes I don't care about for my base coats. I usually use brushes I don't care about for the base, mostly because sometimes you're really pushing your brush. So my recommendation is to use a brush you don't care about for the base coat, because you're going to find yourself pushing in odd directions that you shouldn't push with your brush, and sometimes that's just the way it goes. So we're not going to worry about it. There we go. Remember, we're only going to show on camera one of each tile. And I'm knocking pieces off because I can. So this is not overly difficult. You can make it difficult. But if you really want to make it easy on yourself, pick no more than 5 colors when you're painting something like this. When you're painting a character, you would pick more. But, for example, in the last room I picked, I literally used 3 colors plus the wash. And then the dry brushing. I picked 3 base colors. I had picked green and orange and silver. And that's literally it. Because the more colors you add, the more finicky it's going to get. Okay? So my recommendation is really, if you want to make it quick and easy, pick no more than 5 colors for your terrain. It'll still look great because you can use washing and dry brushing to make it look great, right? So it'll still look good, but it will eliminate the stress of painting so many different colors, because painting that many different colors can be a little something. Okay, it can be a little nerve-wracking when you're not sure, should I put this color over here? Just pick a handful of colors. And in this case, I'm probably picking 3 or 4. But if you can keep it simple, then it just works better. So we will come back for our last pass at the blue-gray, and then we will come back with a different color. All right, time to finish up our blue-gray coats. So we're just going to get through this as quickly as possible, so I'm just going to glob my paint on. It's pretty easy to do because it's just a base coat. And when you're doing a base coat, I don't really care, it doesn't matter. I'm not even doing 2 coats, so sometimes you've seen me do 2 coats. I'm not, because I want the underlying gray primer to shine through, right? I want that to come through because I just want it to. I just want it to. I want to see it a little bit. I don't have to see all of it, but I'd like to see it a little bit. Just coming through a little would be nice. So that's what we've done. I'm not doing a second coat for that reason. So let's just get this on here. And then it's time to start picking the next color we want. So normally when I go into these, I don't necessarily have a plan. And that's fine. You don't have to have a plan. You can have a plan. It's great if you know exactly what you want. But I think what I'm going to do, I think I am going to get some yellow and start doing, like, if you look on the walls, they have spots where I think I'm going to do some yellow. So I think I'm going to put some yellow on my palette. Kind of a dirty yellow. So I'm going to get some yellow and then I'll probably darken it down with a little bit of sepia just to darken it up a bit. So I think that's what I'm going to do while these sit and dry. I will grab my yellow paint, get it on my palette, and when we come back, we will start adding some yellow. All right, time to get some of the yellow on. Now to make this yellow, we're going to ignore the dogs. To make this yellow, I literally just took yellow and added a very little bit of sepia to it. So I didn't do anything bright. And I just dropped a piece on the floor. I didn't do anything bright or fancy. I just took a yellow and toned it down just a little, with just a little bit of sepia. So it's really, really easy to get the colors exactly the way you want. And remember, there's no right or wrong when it comes to colors. Like, I didn't want to go too bright with my yellow. I thought that would maybe not be what I wanted. I'm just doing the pipes. I'm just doing the pipes in this yellow, and I'm going to come back in a gray. And then I don't know exactly how many colors I'm going to do, but I do know I'm going to come back in a gray and do some of the other parts. Right? I'm just deciding. And it's okay to take your time to decide. Like, I know the look I want, sort of, but it evolves. It should evolve as you paint. We're just gonna go slow and steady. Slow and steady. Just slow and steady. Paint the pipe. And this pipe. I'm just going to paint the pipes, and there's a part of the floor I want to paint. So we're going to paint part of the floor and the pipes is the idea here. Because I want a little more color than just the blue. We're going to take this guy. And on this guy, we're going to just run a little bit of this yellow just on the little dots. I don't want it bright, but I didn't want to go too dark either, because I'm going to darken this all up with a sepia wash later. Right? So I don't want to go too light either. I don't want to go too dark or too light. And that's the real trick sometimes, is picking the right consistency for your piece. Right? You want to make sure it's the color you want. And I'm going to come back as well when I do the gray and do the little nail heads. I think I might not. Like, I might just leave the nail heads and just let the sepia do its job. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. I'll decide that when I've got the gray out. And I think I'm going to do the dots in the middle. I think I'm going to do them kind of a rose color or fluorescent pink, maybe. I don't know yet. Honestly, I don't really know yet. So don't hold me to that. But I might do kind of a gradient. Kind of do almost a glow effect. Not a real glow effect. Real glow effects are complicated. More complicated than we do on this channel anyway. Now, the sky. And the reason I'm flipping these over before I paint them is because this was the first side we painted, so it's been setting longer, which is good. Not that it's not dry, it's dry. There we go. This doesn't have any pipes, but I am going to run around the inside here. I'm going to just run on this inside track. What's this inside track? Just so all the pieces have a similar color scheme. On this one, just like its larger cousin, it's just going to get some of the color on the edge here. And if you're wondering why I picked such a light blue, the blue-gray, why didn't I darken it a little? It's because it's going to get so dark when I hit it with the sepia wash. Okay? Always keep in mind when you're doing your washes, so your washes are either darker or lighter than your original colors, depending on what you're doing, if you're lifting or deepening. So you want to bear in mind that they will change the base color, right? They will absolutely result in your base color looking different. Okay. Okay, we're just going to finish this piece, and then we'll come right back, and I'm going to finish the other guys off camera. Okay, and we will flip over the wall pieces and do the yellow on the other side, and then it'll be time to break open, and we will break open the gray. There we go. There we go. That's literally all we're doing on those pieces for the yellow. We'll come back, turn over the pieces that need to be turned over, then we'll carry on. Okay, I've actually decided to do a little more yellow on these pieces. I've just decided, not on the floor, just on these wall pieces. But because I'm just doing it on the inset, I can turn it right over. Okay, so I just need just a little in here. And then I can flip that over and do more. So I'm just going to do these insets as well. Just so that I have them. And then I'm going to be using a purple color, but not on these pieces, just on the floor. I probably should figure out a spot for the purple to go on these pieces, but I probably don't need to. I probably don't need to. We're probably fine. Again, we're just grazing the pipes just so they stand out from the background a little bit. Actually, what I might do with the purple after I do the gray, we'll see. I might do the buttons on the panel. And that's literally it for that piece. Then this guy, same deal. I'm going to get the inset. We're going to turn it over and get the inset on the other side. Because that's what we want to do. So like you can see, I change my mind a lot while I'm painting. There's no harm in that. There's no harm in just deciding you'd like to do something different now. You'd like to just change your mind. No, nothing wrong with that. But it's supposed to reflect what you like. And I like this. Today. What I'm painting and how I paint it really varies based on the day. There's a little too much paint on my brush there. So just dabbing some off. But, I mean, what I like to paint, how I paint, it's different day to day. It really is. So let's get that inset. We're only doing the inset on that side. We're not doing, there's no pipes or anything to paint. So we're just doing the inset, and then we're going to hit the inset here. Flip it. Do the inset and the inside of the doors. I like doing the inset of the doors because basically if I don't, I think the doors are going to look a little flat. Also, I just like it. So, there's nothing wrong with doing something just because you like it. It doesn't have to be because, oh, I think it'll brighten it up, or I think it'll give it dimension. It can just be because I like it. You know, you don't have to do it just because you think it'll enhance the piece. It can be only because you like it. Now I'm going to take some purple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit just the center of these. And I'm doing it kind of messy on purpose because I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back with lighter colors. And that's what we're doing for right now. We have to let all that dry. I'll finish up the other pieces off camera. And then we will come back and do a little more of the purple in a lighter color, and we'll do some gray. Okay, I've lightened up this color a little bit, and I'm just hitting the centers of my circles. Worry about those off camera. And I have a gray, rather nice gray that I like quite a bit. It's my pewter gray, which is a color I tend to really like. So I'm gonna hit this. I don't care about painting the buttons. I'm gonna come back with a couple of different colors for those buttons. Probably a pale purple. Really pale though. Hit these. Control panels with a gray. Just like this. So how do I make these choices? Somebody keeps asking me. Spur of the moment, mostly. I'd be lying if I said I usually start with a plan. Sometimes I do. Sometimes there's a plan. Most of the time, I don't have a plan. Most of the time, it's just me deciding, I like this color, I like that color. Let's put it on there. Right? Most of the time, I don't have a specific plan happening. I'm just going to switch brush sizes because I'm going to hit these buttons. They're actually like rivets. And I just want to make the rivets, just deepen them with a gray. The reason I want to do that is, oops, slipped. There we go. The reason I want to do that is just to jazz them up a bit. So, same thing over here. I'll just use the small brush because it doesn't matter. I am going to come back with purple to jazz up these light areas. Book, 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 book. Sometimes you need a sound effect. Book. And you just want to, I'm just leaving most of this just the blue-gray. And then I just want to put that flat so I can see these buttons a little better. They're not buttons, they're rivets. But I am going to forever call them buttons. Just the way it's going to be. I'm just going to call them buttons. Duke, 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 Duke. Just makes them stand out a little bit before we hit them with the sepia wash. And then come back and hit the center of this guy with that. All right, we will come back when that dries. That's literally all I'm hitting it with. I don't want too much. Everything else is going to kind of stand out when I hit it with the wash. I want these very, very clean, very simple, very few colors. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to hit that control panel with a little of the purple I already have, but then I'm calling it done. Okay, time to add some detailing before we switch sides. So I decided to abandon the purple for this, and we're just going to use some gold. And I am going to hit this with a silver dry brush later. There we go. I do like gold. I like the way gold looks. And then we're going to take some of the purple and just highlight some of these areas, which I like doing. There we go. Take this guy to highlight some purple areas, just like that. And then this guy, like that. Alright, as soon as that dries, we will come back, flip them over, and work on the other side. Okay, time to turn them over. Now the only piece I'm turning over that needs purple is this one here. I'm just painting this little light. So we're going to paint that. And then we are going to change colors. And I'm going to paint the top of this. Normally I wouldn't do this, but it's one spot, right? I'm just going to be careful. There we go. Then we are going to flip this guy over. And the only spots he needs the gray is on his rivets. Right? That's it. So we're just going to do the rivets. Because all this is just paneling. And then I'm going to stripe across here where these braces are. That's literally all I'm doing, right? I'm not doing any other spots, just where these braces go across the pipes, right? Just to give it just a little more depth. And this is literally it. Like, that's literally all I'm going to do before we start hitting it with the wash, which I've already prepared. I've got my sepia wash ready to go. I'm using a fairly dark wash because, I mean, if you think about it, this is a room that people have been in. It's probably not brand new. So it'll probably be mussed up. Like, unless you're playing it, remember, I'm usually painting these for specific campaigns. So I don't normally paint something that is for an unused area. So in our campaigns, most of the places they go to have been quite well utilized. Okay, so I'm generally not concerned about things looking brand new. I want to scuff them up. One of the easiest ways to scuff them up is using a sepia or a black wash, depending. I'm using a sepia wash here because black would be a little too harsh. I've used black washes in the past, but generally on something like this, because this is lighter, I wouldn't want to use a black wash because it'll just be a little too dark. Okay, there we go. We're pretty close to being able to do that wash. We just really have to let this stuff dry, right? Like, we just have to give it a bit to dry. We're turning this over. You can see again, this doesn't really have any spot where we would put that purple, right? Like, there's no real place you might stick it. It's just got all these rivets. And you cannot hit the rivets with a separate color. You can just not. That's completely fine as well. Okay. We are pretty much almost done. We're getting there. So we're going to come back and I'm going to finish the rest of them off camera and we will come back and start dropping some wash. All right. Time to start adding our wash. So I'm using a rather dark sepia wash. And I'm leaving some grit in it because I really want this to show up well. So we're just letting that sit and fall into the grooves. And I know it looks like overkill now, but it won't when it dries. So the trick is to cover the entire surface where you want this to go. If you don't want it in a spot, don't put it there. Because it is all going to darken up. This is why I use such a light color, because I knew I was going to darken it up. And I've put some of my grit sand in it, so you can see there's some spots where there's some gritty sand-like stuff. That's my grit that I use for painting. What I want is for that to show up. And I decided not to do the rivets on the floor because the floor has these middle things. It didn't really need it. Right? I just decided the rivets weren't worth the trouble. There we go. I mean, the rivets show up pretty well like this. And I have some of that grit sand in there, so when it dries, it'll look like there's like almost sand on the floor, which I like. Oops, this is the wrong side. I meant to turn these over. Oh well. I did that side without turning it over. It doesn't matter. They were dry anyway. So we're just gonna go over this like so. Make this look good and gross. Not gross, it'll look aged and weathered. That's what that does. And I'm just gonna hit the top of that Right, I'm just gonna hit the tops so the tops don't look pristine, because if the rest of it, don't forget the tops of your terrain, because if the rest of it looks gritty and old, then you want the top edge, because this is a room, you're going to see the top edge, because typically you're looking top down. So I'm doing the floors, I'm trying to scoop a little more grit. That's what I'm trying to do, is a little bit more grit to show up. There we go. I am going to let that dry. Then I am going to flip them over, or the ones that need to be flipped over. I'm going to flip them over and finish up with a silver dry brush. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes for you, but it'll be a few hours for me. Okay, time to turn everything over. And only obviously the pieces that need to be turned over. Not everything does. And you see how there's really a huge difference once you put that wash on. That's why I go lighter than I intend. Because if I go too dark, I end up with a bit of a problem. And that's not the one I was doing for the camera, was it? No. So we just want this wash to sink into all the grooves, because there are other ways to make those grooves show up. None quite as effective or quite as easy. So could you go through and highlight each little bit of detail? Sure. Is that going to be as easy as this? No. And this works just fine. I mean, it's highlighting everything you need to highlight. And it's looking cool. And I'm not worrying about scooping too much of the grit now, because I really scooped a lot of grit onto the floors, which is what I wanted. So again, if you want that kind of grit, just go to your local craft store, whatever you have in your area, and you want to get just sand. There's sand that is designed to be added to paint. That's what this is. The grit. Okay, that's literally it. We're going to come back and do a little bit of dry brushing, but that's how easy it is to do a little bit of wash and really darken things up and bring out the detail. So we'll come back when that's dry so we can do a little dry brushing. All right, we are ready for a little dry brushing. We're just using a little bit of silver. And remember, the trick with dry brushing is if you think you have too much, any paint on your brush at all, you have too much. Okay? That's the way that works. So we're just going to dry brush this. I'm going to stay out of the recess where all the wash is. Stay high. And this just re-lifts. You notice it just takes some of the dinge away. Not all of it. And it gives it a little bit of a sheen. Okay? Gives it a little bit of a sheen. This is why your wash has to be entirely dry before you start doing this. Okay, if your wash isn't dry, you're going to end up really messing up your wash. So always wait until your wash is 100% dry before attempting to dry brush. Okay? And you'll have to go back for more paint frequently, because the worst thing you could do is have too much paint on your brush. Okay? It's better to go get some paint on it, brush it off, dry brush a very little bit, and then go back for more. Okay? It's just safer. It's just so much safer that way. So we are going to come back when I have finished dry brushing all the excess panels, because you don't need to watch all the repeat panels because that would be boring. So we will come back, flip them over, do the final dry brush. Okay, we're gonna flip over the guys that we need to jazz up here, get a little more silver on our brush, and start hitting it. And you can see how much of a difference it makes immediately. Like, you're not covering up your paint job. You don't have enough paint on your bristles for that. What you're doing is softening it, raising the color back up so that that wash that took it down isn't so strong, right? And could you do a lighter wash? Yeah, but I would still use this to raise up that color. Just kind of brightens everything back up. Besides, it gives this a metallic sheen, which is exactly what I'm after. So we're going to let that dry, put the whole thing together, see how it looks. And just like that, all those harsh colors are broken down, softened, and brought out by the wash and the dry brushing. So definitely consider using those two techniques. You don't have to. If you are more than happy with it to be without the dry brushing, without the wash, I mean, it's your project. You can do it however you want. So remember to have fun when you're painting. Use only the techniques you're comfortable with. Learn new techniques along the way if that's what you're interested in. And above all, you're painting for yourself, not for everyone else. So if you like it, then it's good enough. That's about it for us here today. I hope you'll be back with us next time. Bye!